We were finally about to get more of the support system. That's when it all collapsed. It was a spark, right? And then that's all it takes to kind of burn the whole thing down. I'll never forget the moment, New Year's Day. We actually played the biggest show of our career, and we all knew the band was done. When I decided to sell everything that I own besides keep my guitars, 2 suitcases, and my truck. And I decided, okay, I don't know who I am without this band. I need to go rediscover. I needed to get a lot better. I need to treat myself on a mind, body, spirit level like an athlete.
Today, where you were at 10 years ago, looking back, speak to younger Will, rock band Will, everything falling apart. What would you say to that Will today?
Beautiful. Yeah, it looks great.
Take your pick where you want to sit. All right. Thank you, Gene. Welcome back to Walk With Me, Brother. Today I am sitting with somebody whose story feels deeply connected to what this project is all about. Will Buck is an artist, an ultra runner, and a coach who rebuilt his life after everything he thought fell apart. He had the band, the momentum, the identity, the vision, who he believed himself to be, and then it all collapsed. And like so many men, he was forced to face the hardest questions of all. Who am I without the success? Who am I without the noise? Who am I when the old version of me no longer walks? This conversation is about identity, collapse, rebuilding, and returning to yourself when you've drifted so far away you barely recognize the man in the mirror. So Will, before we walk into all of this today, welcome. I know there on the intro there's going to be a lot of stuff that I've missed out, so I'm really intrigued to hear more about you. You're still an artist?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Talk me through the early years. Take me back. Where were you from? Where you grew up? And I'm just really interested to hear your story.
Early days. Okay, so I'm from outside Baltimore, Maryland, and small town. But really, the only important thing to know about my upbringing is I wanted to do something that no one around me was doing, right? So I didn't have role models in this, a blueprint, because I wanted to be a successful musician. So eventually I moved away. I moved to Colorado, and I met the right guys, and I formed a band called Westwater Outlaws. In 2011, we went on our first tour. I was 22. We drove overnight from Boulder, Colorado to Memphis, Tennessee, 17 hours. And we were in a black F-250 we dubbed Black Sabbath. All of our gear was in the back of the truck. Us four were up front with our sleeping bags. On that tour, we only had 4 dates booked, and we were out for however many weeks. I can't remember. I don't know why we did it that way. We just wanted to go. On that tour, we managed to play actually every night. We would go around with our instruments. We would ask bars, we would ask bands, can we play your set break? We'll just do it for tips. We managed to play every night. Also, on that tour, we got robbed. Our bass player and drummer actually got in a fist fight in a park in Savannah at sunup. We almost took a truck tire through our windshield. We made it home and then turned around and decided we're going to tour 100 days a year for the next 3 years straight.
Wow.
And that's really where the story begins.
Okay. Thank you for watching Walk With Me, Brother. We are a relatively new podcast. Without your support, without your help, we cannot grow. So please subscribe. Please give us a thumbs up. Please share our episodes. We've got every single week. We have entrepreneurs, doctors, veterans, people, experts within their field, all talking everything related to mental health. So if you haven't catched our previous episodes, go and watch them now. But follow us along and please support our amazing journey. So how did you get into music? You said there from the early days. Was there anyone else in your family in music? Or
No.
What instrument did you play?
Guitar.
Guitar?
Yeah.
So was this throughout high school or?
Much younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years old.
Wow.
I was completely drawn to it, and I have no explanation whatsoever. And I basically told my mom at that age, said, I want to play guitar. And they were like, we have no idea. We'll try to find you lessons. And I was completely obsessed. Yeah, by 10 years old, it was like I would just shut my door and play for hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you find the band, or did the band find you?
I found them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the singer first in 2010, and then he introduced me to the drummer and bassist, and I'll never forget it. First jam we had was like, we have something. Yeah, this is it. This is what I've been looking for.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you start touring.
Yeah.
And you go into the 100 days over 3 years. So talk us through what happened there.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it is kind of a blur. It was like basically living out of a suitcase on and off the road.
So you were in hotels, or?
If we could. Yeah, sleeping on the floor of the hotel. Because the way that we did it, like I said, we started in a truck. Like we just wanted to go. Because at that time, the social media was a thing, but it wasn't like it is now. So we decided we're going to earn this thing the old-fashioned way. We're going to go from town to town, one fan at a time, right? If we sell one T-shirt, if we sell one CD, we've done our job correctly. And what we did was we played really long bar sets in the beginning because we didn't have the fan base. So you go, you play a bar because there's already people there. You play 3 to 4 hours, and then you get a cut of the bar. So it's like guaranteed money that you can like stay out on the road.
Yeah.
So that's really what those 3 years looked like. And then obviously it grew and grew and grew until the band was like selling out clubs and playing major festivals.
Wow.
And then of course the whole collapse happens right at the face of success.
So you do 3 years, through those kind of like 100 gigs over those 3 years. What cities were you in, and what states? Did you just go from state to state, or was it random? Or?
I mean, we were all over the place. We did the Southeast for the first year. We were really heavy in the Southeast, all through Texas. And then, middle of the country. Eventually, we finally started to tour the West Coast.
Okay.
And I remember the first West Coast tour was like, why haven't we been doing this the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I feel very grateful that I've been able to see so much of the U.S. I pretty much you could name a city, and I know
That's so cool.
a venue and
That's so
a
cool.
couple of like main spots around the city, maybe.
So how tight were you guys? How many was there in your band?
There was 4 of us.
How tight were you guys?
Complete brotherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where even if I told you every single thing that happened on the tour, there's only 3 other guys that have that same felt experience.
Yeah.
It's bonding like really nothing else.
So you get built up. Obviously, you get bigger, and like you said, you get bigger and bigger. And so, what was the moment there from going like these pop bar gigs to festivals? Like, what was that jump like for like your ego? And I mean, you're in a rock band, right? So
yeah, it was really disorienting because it wasn't a clear jump. We would go and play a festival and have the whole experience and have the big crowd. The next day we would drive to Iowa and play like an empty bar. This was just like the up and down of that life. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to bigger bands, and they were basically saying like, I know it feels like it's these scattered dots all over the place, but when you zoom out, it's actually going to be this like upward trajectory. Yeah. So that was comforting. Yeah. On the nights where we would like be back on the hotel room floor and like, what happened to the other night, when we were playing in front of a bigger crowd.
So, when I don't like want to kind of generalize or anything like, when I think of rock bands, I think of alcohol, I think of drugs, I think of girls, parties. Was this the case for you guys?
Yeah.
And how long did that last? You're on a high, right? Mm-hmm. So how long did that high last for?
The thing is, you explain it as a high, and it looks like that, but there also is a lot of it that is kind of covering up, like maybe what's happening internally, right? You have to perform, right? And these things are kind of like a Band-Aid over the top, and it kind of takes on a life of its own, like the band and that whole like sphere that lives around it. You don't realize what gets built, and then it kind of takes on its own life, and then it's almost like you're just trying to survive. You're just riding the train, right? And then at some point you feel like you're just surviving, right? Trying to keep it all together.
So what did you ever in those moments feel any kind of wobbles mentally? Was there any voices inside you, or was it just kind of masking everything every day?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wobbles all the time, right? And looking back on it now, there was so much I was trying to do to just keep the train going because this was my dream, right?
Yep.
So I was always trying to ground myself and ground the band and like the people around me. But then the masking was you got to go and perform, right? You got to put on the leather jacket, you got to do the interview, you got to do whatever you're shooting that day, right? You got to get to the venue and you got to play the best show you can. So even if there's wobbles or there's interpersonal stuff that's going on, showtime rolls around, it's time to perform.
If you are struggling right now, or if you know somebody who is, please talk to somebody. Please reach out to someone. Talk to a friend or call a trusted helpline. In the US, you can reach the National Crisis and Helpline by texting and dialing 988. If you're outside the US, you can find help on findahelpline.com, and I will put all of that information in the description below. So please reach out to someone if you're struggling or if you know someone who is. So let's talk about, obviously, then the collapse. So when we say collapse, what happened? Just how did it go from being so good to no more band?
Yeah. Well, you mean like why did the band break or like? Yeah. It was a house of cards to begin with. I mean, you take a bunch of 20-year-old guys, you put them in a van and you send them around the country with like no tools. And then as it grows, right, like then there's lawyers involved, there's contracts, there's, creative differences. Then you add like substances on top of that. You're trying to keep it all together. The difficulty of touring. All it's going to take is a spark, right? And
Did you guys have a manager or?
Yeah, we eventually did. I was the manager until we got a manager. And that was extremely valuable. And I was very close with him. But they're not on the road. We didn't have a day-to-day. We didn't have a tour manager, right? It was just us four in a van and a trailer. So that was another difficult thing is like when we were finally about to get more of the support system, that's when it all collapsed, right? So it was a spark, right? And then that's all it takes to kind of burn the whole thing down. And then it happened like pretty abruptly.
So what was the spark?
Well, I think it was a contract or something.
Was it?
But at that, it was like, it's like a relationship, right? You ask somebody, like, what made you get divorced? And it's like, well, maybe there was one moment, but there was 5 years of something that was going on.
So you guys, at that point, where were you, throughout that kind of collapsey part, the band breaking up, where were you at mentally? Like, where was your head at? So
lost. Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget the moment, New Year's Day, because we actually played the biggest show of our career. And we all knew the band was done. I woke up.
That?
Yeah, that was New Year's Day, 2015. My walls, right? They were covered in rock stars, like posters that I looked up to. I could not even look at them. I felt like I had disappointed all of them. Immediately, I felt I don't know who I am. I don't know where the direction is, the structure. I knew the brotherhood had broken. I knew the sphere, the bubble had popped. And so it all kind of vanished instantly.
Just like overnight?
Yeah.
So what did you do next? Like, what was the next, because did you go back to living at home? Where did you go from there?
No, I did the opposite. This is when I decided to sell everything that I own besides keep my guitars, 2 suitcases, and my truck, 2001 Toyota Tacoma. And I decided, okay, I don't know who I am without this band. So my answer was, I'm just going to go almost disappear. right? I think looking back on it, there was a bit of self-exile, a little bit of, I'm almost like banishing myself because I need to go rediscover, right? So on the outside, I was doing the vagabonding thing and I was playing gigs and I was working like seasonal work along the way.
So you were still performing.
Performing, but like I went from, crowd surfing to literally playing on the street in Portland, like within a 30-day span, maybe. And so there was so much dissonance that was happening on the inside versus the outside. And I also couldn't think about the future because I had lost the direction. So I wanted to be like just day to day. I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
Yep.
I'm going to rediscover who I am through this basically like vagabonding, drifting era, which ended up lasting like a whole year.
Okay. So you traveled, was this nationwide or is this when you started to go overseas?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started on the West Coast and then eventually I went all the way to Australia and downside, obviously I didn't take my truck and I got a little motorbike and I had even less stuff. And then I was doing it down there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay in Australia for?
7 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you come back and then during that time, I mean, I know when I've been overseas and the grass is greener, I've always kind of reinvented myself a little bit when I've done that. I mean, when I've traveled. Did you come back then from Australia a different person or did you have new direction? Did you have a new dream, a new focus?
Yeah, so I definitely was a different person. Whether I had new focus, probably not. I was hoping for that. But really, I was like, I'm not going to go out this way. I'm going to give it a second shot. But I still knew I was going to have to start from the ground up. This was really where I was realizing, okay, I've done it once. I know how hard it is. I'm almost avoiding the idea of starting over. But I decided this is when I moved to LA, right? Okay. And I was like, okay, go to the heart of the entertainment capital of the world. And if you're going to start over, you might as well start in the most difficult place.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's, a lot of people like myself, probably reason being. So I can attest to that. So when you arrived in LA, the dream was still to pursue the music career. Mm-hmm. At this point, what year is this now?
2016.
Okay. So at this point now, were you sober? How were you mentally? No, it got worse before it got better. Okay.
Yeah. The first couple years in LA were probably the hardest.
Okay.
Because what happened was when I was in constant motion during the drift years, I could kind of just focus on what was currently happening and wherever the next place I was going to land. When I finally landed in LA, I had to get a job to support myself, which was basically this job at a warehouse where I was packing T-shirts for 8 to 10 hours a day in a 40,000 square foot warehouse by myself. All you have is time. The time to think about what happened. Where did I go wrong? What am I going to do? I have no musical context here. Music doesn't work. You can't show up with a resume and say, hey, I've done this with a band. Yeah. Hire me. So I knew, this is just going to be an absolute fight to even get my feet under me. Yeah.
So, and what happened next?
So, I dragged on in that mental mode of like, I know I need to start over. And I think I was auditioning for different projects, right? Because that was what I knew was being part of a band. Nothing was working out, right? And also when you have that level of chemistry with a band and you've been together for that many years, there's a synergy that happens that's really hard to recreate. And so I eventually realized, okay, I don't want to give up, but I can't find something to join. So I decided to become a solo artist, almost out of necessity, right? I'd never actually pictured myself as a solo artist, but I was like, this is the only way.
Yeah.
And then that's when I started over.
Okay, cool. And so you're still performing today?
Not performing as much just because I have everything that's going on with Creative Athlete, but still releasing. Yeah, I put out a song last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put all your links in the description below for anyone who wants to check out maybe the old stuff and then the new stuff. But yeah, I mean, what a journey. So talk to me about what you call the Forge years.
Yeah. So this is when I really decided, okay, I'm going to start over. I'm going to use my real name. I'm going to become a solo artist. And in doing so, especially in Los Angeles, I realized I need to get way better, right? And if I'm going to get way better, it's going to be sheer hard work, grit, endurance, consistency, discipline, right? So this is when I got sober. I started boxing at 7 a.m. I developed my 5 things list, which is like something I do now with Creative Athlete. And then it was just one day at a time, each day, 1% better. Yeah. And then that was a whole 5-year span that I have eventually released almost 100 songs. I did have a major label debut. I had a Grammy nominee remix one of my songs. You know, those are accolades, right? But really the most important thing for the Forge years was the discipline, the self-integrity, the stuff that now I talk about, right? Because all that stuff is like an offshoot of what I learned to do on a daily basis.
So this was really the foundation of everything you're doing today.
Yes.
So this is where you really had to kind of dig deep.
Yeah.
Impressive. And I can kind of relate to a lot of that myself over the last few years. And one thing we were speaking off camera there, and one thing I say to my peers and my wife and my friends and people who ask me advice, I always say there's no such thing as a get rich quick scheme. You can't suddenly sign up for an ultra marathon tomorrow. It's the reps, it's the miles, it's the hours, and I always I think it's about 10,000 hours, which is about 3.5 years ish to 4 years of work before you can truly. So that kind of matches there similar. So from the Forge years there, what were your biggest takeaways to what you're doing today? Obviously, you talked about the sobriety.
Yeah. I realized that if you want to change your life, change your day. Because we're shooting for these accolades, these achievements, milestones. That's one moment, right? Your life is made up of days. That's the texture of your life. That's the felt experience. And for me, I had continually set up these big goals and then failed or missed them. And it was very discouraging. When I broke it down to what do I need to do on a daily basis that makes me the best version of myself, makes me feel good, moves things forward, now I have the formula, right? And then how do I just iterate on this formula and stack days? And then I can look back and say, okay, I stacked enough days. I feel like I have a good life.
Was there a day or moment during those 4 years that was like the aha moment? Like, do you remember like one morning or one afternoon when it kind of hit you? Or was it just, how did you kind of come up with the idea of this discipline, teaching yourself this?
Yeah.
Was there a book you listened to? Was there a podcast or?
I remember when it was actually New Year's, 2021. And this is the moment when I realized I'm not going to make big resolutions or a year goal. I'm going to boil it down to what are the 5 things I need to do every single day that would make it unreasonable that I wouldn't hit all of those things.
Do you remember the 5 things that you?
Yeah. So 1 for my mind, 1 for my body, 1 for my spirit, and then 2 for my purpose. 1 which I call craft or sharpening the knife, and then 1 for enacting that purpose in the world. So at that time, I did journaling for my mind, body, any sort of movement, right? It could be lifting, walking, running. For spirit, breath work. I feel like that really gets down to the deeper level. So for craft, I tried to write 2 lines of lyrics every single day, just 2. And then for enacting it in the world, that was some sort of marketing or some sort of posting or releasing or putting a video up, anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was where it started. I still do my 5 things, but it's evolved over
sweet.
time. Yeah.
Okay, so where did you come up with the idea for Creative Athlete? Was it obviously, is this a new kind of idea, or is this something that was in the works from when you started these?
Yeah. It's been in the works for a long time. I just gave it a name, right?
Okay.
So in my philosophy, right, when I really started over and had to forge my own path, I told you I needed to get a lot better. So I thought, okay, if I am trying to be a creative entity, I need to treat myself on a mind, body, spirit level like an athlete. And so I started to develop them on myself first. And then it got to a point where people saw it and they started to ask me flat out, like, will you coach me? And so I did. I started coaching people, and then it developed on its own, like through doing that. And then it has just grown since that. Yeah.
So today, in terms of your coaching, what's the framework you do there for your coaching for?
Yeah. So there's different tiers, but the main thing is I really wanted to have the one-to-one connection. And so that is the basis of it, like any traditional coaching. But the difference is that every single creative athlete gets custom programming because, like I said, my philosophy is on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The real change happens on a daily basis. So when I figured out how to actually help people on a daily basis without having to be on a call with them every single day, that's when it really started to take off. And that's really when people started to feel the impact of it. Then it's the ongoing communication, because the change happens in the moment, whether it's a reframing or it's a decision or it's just you're doing one of your 5 things that day.
So do all your athletes now do the 5 things as well? Is that something part of it?
Yeah, and we build it up slow, and they're developing it one by one. Yeah.
So how would you then, just speaking to like maybe, when it's someone who you come in and coach, how do you help someone who's disconnected from themselves? How would you offer that? What would be your basis there?
Yeah. Disconnected from yourself, I would start with physical. I would start with body. I would start asking them, what does your lifestyle look like? How much are you moving? Because that's going to be square one before we're even going to talk about what does it feel like when stress comes up? Where do you feel that? Is it in your chest? Does your throat start to close up? Because when someone's in chronic stress or they're disconnected, they don't even notice. They don't even know those signs that are happening. So the physical place is the first place I would start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got yourself into, one of the reasons I wanted you to be here today is because I want to pick your brain a little bit on, the world of ultra marathons and ultra runners. So
Yeah.
how has that helped you? Like, how has, we spoke a little bit off camera, but how has just running helped you?
Yeah. Endurance is a metaphor for everything in life. And this is just a physical manifestation of it. And so it's helped me, one, heal. I feel like every mile that I put in is just burning off stuff that I don't want to be carrying around with me anymore. And then every time I push through a physical barrier, I realize something new about my own life or what's happening in business or content or relationship. And then it was the same thing as the coaching. I was doing it so much that I was like, well, maybe I'll just start competing. And so that's where it started.
So tell me through like your mental health struggles through this whole kind of the collapse, the reform, the create. So how are you today compared to how you were the days of when you were in the band? Like just the progress that you've made.
So much happier. Yeah, I mean, it's so wild to look at something that collapsed me so much that now I have extreme gratitude for. And going through the process of feeling like this was the worst thing to happen to me to realizing it was one of the best. That can only be done from a mental health journey or an internal journey.
Did you seek help outside, in terms of therapists, medication, anything like that?
So yeah, therapy. But I will say the self-exile that I did when I went off and vagabonded, I stopped. And I came back to it in the Forge years. So that was definitely a piece of it. No medication, but really setting up my own system, like my own program for me on a daily basis. I call them safety containers, right? So running is one of my safety containers because it just helps me on a physical level work through whatever I'm processing. Breath work is another one, right? The belief in something that's bigger than me, service to other people. So it was really about, creating a personal system of healing that eventually turned into thriving.
So today you're obviously helping others by doing a lot of this, with creative athletes. So who would you say is the typical person that you're helping today? Is there a certain, is it male, female? Is there an age range? What kind of problems do they have when they come to you?
Yeah. So there's male, female, not a specific age. I would say it's people that are looking for clarity of direction, clarity of self, and clarity of work. And when I say work, I mean maybe purpose or creative direction. And they see me as someone that can help guide them with those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much one-to-one time do you normally spend with them a week?
Depends on whatever cadence we choose because of the programming.
Right.
But I have a top tier level where I can literally speak with you every day.
Well,
yeah, these are my like entertainment clients. These are people that need constant calibration. Because one of the things that I've learned is as you go up, and I experienced this too, you get surrounded by yes men and people who are truly invested in you as a vehicle for productivity, right? For what you produce, right? And I'm a person, I'm not invested in their career. I'm invested in them as a person. So I can say, this is an energy drain for you. This is a clear path for you. Like, let's get you regulated, right? So some people need that on a daily basis. Yeah.
What would you say is the first thing you look for in someone who's a little bit lost?
Look for
or who feels lost?
To like help them get on the path. So a lot of times people will have like a big dream, right? As I did too. But there's always something that's behind that. Like let's just take me as a personal example. I wanted to be a successful musician. What is actually behind that? Freedom. My idea was that they have freedom of time. They live outside the system. They're doing something that is a little bit on the edge. That actually didn't end up having to be music for me, right? There's a creative aspect of it. So if someone is telling me, often they will have goals, even if they feel lost, right? That's what they're orienting towards. And then I'll start to uncover, okay, well, what is it actually like underneath this thing? And then that starts to build the blueprint.
Got it. Okay. So would you say like it's a little bit like art as an identity a little bit?
Yes.
Yep.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it changes, right? And that's okay. And being okay with that, embracing it is part of the journey.
Awesome. So where you're at today, where you were at, 10 years ago, looking back, and I always like to ask this question, speak to younger Will, rock band Will, everything falling apart. What would you say to that Will today?
I know you feel broken. This isn't how it ends. That fire that you feel inside, even though you've been burned by it, it's not a curse. It's a gift. And you have to follow that. But remember, there's nothing to prove. Right? This is for you and you alone.
Okay, love that. Do you think old Will would have listened to that?
He knew about the fire
Yeah.
for sure. I think he was a little upset about it. I think he'd be happy to hear that this isn't where it ends. He'd probably feel seen by saying you feel broken, but he wouldn't know how long it would actually take for all of this to really make sense and take shape. Yeah.
How low, I mean, how broken would you say old Will was?
Yeah, after the collapse, it's, I mean, pretty shattered. Yeah. I mean, I didn't show it, right? I didn't, the external, even people that knew me at that time probably wouldn't know. But that's why when I work with people, I can kind of see behind. I can see what's the dissonance, what's actually happening on the inside versus the outside.
Yeah, I've definitely had, I mean, I think your story, not in the rock band, you know, I was in a pretty successful nightlife and had it all. And then, funny enough, when I moved to LA, I walked away from nightlife. I'd lived in nightlife for best part of 15 years.
Wow.
And I was at the very top. You know, I had 250 employees, multiple night venues across Asia. Probably the peak was having Manchester United come and party in my club.
Yeah.
Of players,
Wow.
which I just thought was, you know, being a massive Man United fan, I don't think it got bigger for me than that. To the point when I landed here in LA, there was a time there where I was Uber driving.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I had to ask myself a lot of questions, like, how did I get from there to there? Like, how did I lose everything so quickly? And I walked away from nightlife for a very, very good reason. It would have killed me. The easiest thing for me to do, probably like you going back into a band, would for me, and I got a couple of offers here where I would go back into the nightlife world and, you know, working for other people, but I just, yeah, it would have, I wouldn't have been here today. And that was the very start of me getting out of that industry. You know, I had to do it because it was so toxic.
Yeah.
You know, what was the old saying? Nothing good happens after 11 p.m. at night. So, yeah, we've partied with DJs. I played at same thing. I DJ'd a lot, and I played at music festivals in front of 50,000 people. And next minute, I'm kind of like sitting on my couch at home with no friends and nobody. So,
Wow.
yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities with our story. I think for me, I said it before, like, I don't particularly love running at all. I'm a different build to you, and I'm lugging around 220 pounds, but I know I'm not the best runner, and I don't think one thing that ultra running has taught me is, like, I know I'm never going to be the fastest runner. I'm never going to break a 3-hour marathon, for example. Never say never, but one thing I don't think anyone can compete with me out there on, you know, whether we're doing a race, an Ironman, is my mental strength. I will never give up. I will never, ever give up. I've had torn meniscus in my knee. I've rolled my ankles. I will never give up. I will get to that finish line. And I see sometimes people quit, you know, and I've seen it. I follow a couple of guys on Instagram, and they'll say, you know, I was coming out third on the bike on my Ironman. I had a great swim and a great bike, and then so I felt something in my leg, and I got a DNF. I'm like, why did you not finish the race? Just because you're not going to win your age group, or just finish the race. Like, even if you got to crawl across the finish line, that's just my mentality. So I will never give in. That's where I just won't. And I think that has been endurance sports for me, has taught me that now, and that maxed with all the stuff that's mentally happened over the years. So if there's somebody out there, Will, who's listening to this today, and, you know, and if you could kind of, you know, feel a little bit lost and broken, how would you guide them? How would this episode help them?
Yeah. I would tell them, I know it feels overwhelming right now, but the truth is the magic is in the work that you're avoiding. And all you need to do right now is boil it down to one step towards that work. That's it. Because once you take that one step, the next step is going to show itself. It doesn't have to be this giant proclamation. It doesn't have to be anything grand. It's just that one step. That step's going to make you feel good. Then you take the next step. Before you know it, you're walking, you're moving, right? You're building confidence. And then it's just one step at a time from there.
Day by day, brick by brick. Will, Thank you for sitting here with me today. I think your story reminds us that identity isn't just about performance. It's something that you claim through presence, discipline, and just real honesty. When a man stops hiding and returns to himself, he returns to life. Again, thank you for sitting here, coming out from Echo Park and joining me for this coffee today, and really appreciate it. A great story. I'm going to list all of your, how can people find you, and if they do want to kind of get on your coaching program, what would they need to do?
Yeah. Easiest thing to do is find me on TikTok, The Creative Athlete. And then if you want to work with me, just click the link in my bio and apply.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. Appreciate you. And we wish you nothing but success. And maybe we might get a few miles out of you on this walk and run next year.
Sounds good, Rob. Thank you so much.
Thanks, buddy.